Welcome back to Reading Bear. Today, we will take a look at some new malicious compliance stories. And if you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comments. Let's go!
First one is titled, My in-laws wanted an updated family picture, Q photo session with an urn. So let me set this up for you. My husband is the oldest out of 11 kids. They were all super close, homeschooled, church 3 times a week kind of family. Very close-knit and way too involved in each other's lives. They were shocked when they were introduced to me. A Catholic who really doesn't go to church, drinks, curses, and just wants to be left alone. Back to the story. My in-laws have this huge wall of family portraits. They haven't been updated in ages, but just full of all kinds of cute baby pictures. The 2 youngest girls were going through all of the pictures and decided they wanted to update all of the family pictures as most of the siblings have gotten married, had kids, yada yada. So they asked everyone to send in new family pictures. All the other siblings took new Easter photos with their kids, matching shirts, cute little Easter eggs. Well, that I am in a weird position. See, 6-month-old son passed away over a year ago due to a lot of medical complications that happened during his birth. I am just now coming out of a severe depression and am still mourning. I have hundreds of pictures of him, but not many as family pictures. I never even got an Easter with the kid, but I have his outfit. I told my in-laws I am super uncomfortable. My family has drastically changed over the last year. So tell me what you want. Do you want my family now, hubby and I, or a year ago, hubby, myself, and cute dead baby? She said pick what I want. So I asked hubby, who said to just send a cute picture of the 2 of us. Well, that upset the little sister. She wanted a picture of the baby and us. How dare we not read her mind and send her a picture of our whole family? So cue malicious compliance. I picked up my cute dead kid's urn, grabbed my hubby, and start snapping away. All kinds of cute pictures of us and an urn acting like a picture-perfect family. Even included some with his favorite animals and toys. All smiling, matching, with our dead kid's urn. For some reason, they are mad at me and are refusing to put it up on their wall. My husband and I got a great laugh and some well-needed space. Next one is titled, Coworker made a complaint I was driving too fast. I work at a supermarket driving a modified van thing to pick up trolleys from around the shopping center I work at. This thing goes from 0 to 25 kilometers per hour in around 6 seconds. It's not a quick boy. My coworker not too long ago made a complaint against me to the business bosses that I was driving too fast and nearly ran someone over. That's a pretty heavy thing to accuse someone of, let alone from someone in another department that's never touched the trolley truck. The incident happened at a zebra crossing that's 15 meters after a speed bump, and that speed bump is 5 meters before a tight turn. I follow the speed. The shopping center security said they were fine with 25 kilometers per hour, so with all that, at best at the time of the non-incident I was maybe hitting 12 kilometers per hour, but probably hit the brakes later than they'd like. The trolley truck doesn't do speed bumps well and require you to make the choice of slow down or get tossed the duck around the cabin. Obviously I choose slow down. The brakes on the truck van are also amazing, best brakes I've ever had the privilege of touching. I was also waving the person I nearly ran over to cross the road, so I was at a loss on what I was doing wrong and how I could follow rules better. Enter malicious compliance. For the past 2 weeks I've been driving around at 5 kilometers per hour, blasting slow ride by faggot and treating every zebra crossing like a stop sign and stopping 10 meters before them. And I've been stopping and giving every pedestrian right of way if they're within a few meters of the road, even when it's clear they have no intention of crossing. I don't move until they turn in confusion at why horns are being honked and wave me along. If they don't wave me along, I stay there until they've moved or gotten in their car. The shopping center security today after my shift told me I'm driving way too slowly and stopping the vehicle in really bad positions. I've let them know I'm complying with what my boss and co-workers have asked and that security will need to discuss it with one of them. I specifically gave them the coworker's name who made the too fast complaint. Next one is titled, Boss Got Mad at Me for Wasting Time Organizing. How I Realized My Job Wastes More Money Than I Make. Story: Spent a ridiculous amount of time looking for pens, important keys, and work essentials yesterday. In fact, that's every day for the last year. Spent the last 15 minutes of work yesterday organizing our two main only drawers that were cramped with things from over the year, and making sure daily essentials were easily accessible. Came into work today, typical day, things got super slow, so I continued my organizing efforts. Found hundreds of dollars in equipment that had been forgotten over the years, but mostly trash I discarded. Took about an hour in between pausing to take care of immediate things. I was almost finished when boss comes over and starts haphazardly organizing things, basically complaining I'm being too thorough and that we weren't going to be using this precious time to organize. I asked if everything was okay, and got snapped at as boss swept what was left to organize back into the drawer. I then spent the next 20 minutes doing nothing, expecting the theatrics to be followed by what was supposedly so much more important. 20 minutes. It would have taken me less than 10 to finish organizing while not having any further instruction. I open the drawer, messy once more, and see boss's phone. I close the drawer. I mean, this is the level of organization we aspire for, right? Who am I to waste time questioning this? Boss eventually gives me a sheet to check inventories with. I haven't been trained on this particular task, I make that clear, but I'm barked at about how simple it is. The sheet doesn't make any sense, so eventually boss comes over and starts trying to storm through it. Oh? Wrong sheet? Man, if only we were organized. Eventually get to the end of and we're missing hundreds of dollars in inventory. Boss had been helping, so I clearly state that I had approached my task carefully, one by one, and in order, with double checks, and I knew I hadn't messed up. Eventually boss asks if I've seen their phone. I say yes. Where? You organized it. Don't you remember? Boss barks at me with the same question. I say they swept it into the drawer with everything else. Boss says they don't remember that, and I say nothing as boss returns to their office. Why didn't I say anything? It was all on camera anyway, in the perfect spot actually. I'm quitting this job shortly, so I didn't feel the need to make it a big deal. Epilogue: A former coworker, a great one, visited and confirmed that things in that drawer were years old. We have a pretty high turnover rate, and it's because employees either don't care, or actually do care and are penalized for it. Or both. We've lost 2 senior employees in a month, and I'm just sitting here with a secret deadline until I'm out too, though after today, why not at least look for another job? I can already hear myself. Why did I leave my last job? We didn't share the same values on organization. I felt a lot of man-hours were being wasted due to an unorganized environment. I've shot up the totem pole a lot because of turnover, and have accepted increased responsibilities. By my calculations, in just a month we've wasted somewhere around $3,000 due to lack of organization, and that's only from the responsibilities I've inherited. If things are proportional in each department, that number multiplies easily. This means organizational mishaps costs my job more than I even make. P.S. Would it be unethical to ask for a raise knowing full damn well no amount they pay me is making me stay more than a few more months? Next one is titled, Might Make Sure You Know What I'm Working On Before Letting Me Go. I was working for a logistics company several years ago. They went through a merger, and wound up shutting our office down. They presented it to us like they were doing us a favor, and expected me to pick up and move states to keep working with them. That obviously wasn't in the cards, so what happened next was a bit of fun. When we got the email talking about the merger, I had my reservations. When we got a second email indicating that the company president, VP, head of sales, and a HR supervisor were all coming down to meet our 8-person office, I clearly saw the writing on the wall. You don't send that type of firepower if something great is happening. The day of the meeting comes up, and they told us that due to the merger they were shutting down our office, but we could go to any of the other offices they, or the new company had. I wasn't 100% not going to move, but I wanted to know my options. To say they weren't prepared for this meeting is an understatement. I asked them several questions that were critical to me making a decision on my future within the next 5 days. 1. Will you pay moving expenses? 2. Will you pay to break my lease? This was March, and I renewed my lease in February. 3. Will you pay cost of living adjustments if average costs are higher where I go? The answer to all 3 was initially, we don't know, we'll have to get back to you. This was on a Friday, and they told me by the end of that day I would have my answers. Shockingly enough, come Monday I did not have these answers. I told this to my local manager, and he cussed under his breath and hopped on the phone. About 30 minutes later, I get my answers. First no, second no, third no. While I had expected these answers, I could tell they did not expect my next question. By the merger I had just gone over 3 years with the company. I asked them what the severance package looked like. One more time I was told, we don't know, we will have to get back to you. A couple of hours later, they offered me 1 month's salary, not factoring in my commissions, which had exceeded my salary. Not only did they offer me scraps, they wanted me to sign a new non-compete with all sorts of new teeth. Needless to say, I told them no thanks to all of it. This made them mad, and then they told me that I could turn in my stuff, and would be paid for the next 2 weeks. What they didn't know or ask is what I was working on. In the business it's typically very easy to pick up the ball for someone else. Unknown to them I was working on an incredibly complicated project moving a portable air traffic control tower from Jacksonville to Puerto Rico. This is also a government project since it's involving airports, so all the T's need to be crossed along with all the I's dotted. To get this down to PR, we put it on a barge. This thing was basically a massive camper converted with a pop-up tower and all sorts of electronics if you're trying to imagine it. Oversized, and needing permits to move. I honestly can't tell you what happened from this point. I never found out. All I can do is sit around from time to time and chuckle about how whoever tried to pick up my slack stepped into a hornet's nest, the likes of which I couldn't have set up had I planned and tired. They let me go on the spot since they didn't want me harvesting info to poach customers and start my own gig. What they didn't know is that I knew all of this was coming, and had already printed out everything I needed several days before. Had they asked me to see this thing through, I probably would have. Next one is titled, So I Need to Respect Office Hours? You got it. This story happened 16 years ago, in Paris, where I was working for a big outsourcing company as a software developer. It's a little boring, but I thought I'd share. This was my first job out of school, and I had been staffed at the company's biggest client, a gigantic group of companies that seems to produce everything that's possible. With that in mind, and added to the fact that I love programming and that I knew nobody in Paris so had no social life, I worked hard. I worked about 1 to 3 hours overtime every day and was called a few times to stealthily work on weekends. By stealthily, I mean it was not reported to the client or the city. I was told that it's in fact illegal to work on Sunday unless the company has approval from the city, which they didn't even ask. All that unpaid, which is not really allowed in France. All was fine for the first 6 months I had been there. To avoid rush hours, I used to come in around 10 a.m. instead of 9 a.m. I had never been told what our office hours were and nobody complained, so I thought 10 a.m. was okay. That was until the only morning I arrived at 9:30. The sales manager who oversaw our team of programmers and was above my manager approached me in the hall while I was coming in. He told me the client had been complaining about my hours and that I should make sure I'm here at 9 a.m., the agreed start of our office hours. I found it strange as the client really didn't seem to care about my whereabouts, and the way that this guy talked to me made me think he just decided to show me who the boss was. I started to reply with something like, well, but he cut me off after my first word and berated me that I was not special, that I just needed to follow the rules, etc. That's where I think I veered into MC. I cut his berating off. Yes, he was still going on. Maybe he had too much free time, and apologized profusely. That shut him up. Now I could continue with something like, I was not aware that 9 to 6 were official hours, but I will make sure I respect it. I'm very sorry about that. I'll be sure to be here at 9 and leave at 6 sharp. I used to stay until sometimes 9, wow, even 10 p.m. now that I think about it, but be assured I will be out at 6 from now on. I would not want to cause any trouble. I excused myself, saying that my manager will be wondering where I am, so I need to turn in, and left for my desk. That day, I left at 6 p.m. The next day, I arrived at 9 a.m. and the manager came to me again. I greeted him with, "Hi. See, 9 a.m. sharp," and with a big smile. He then went to explain that he talked to the client and that he fought for me and they finally agreed for me to come in at 10 a.m. Yeah, right. I expressed how happy I was and was about to leave when he said before I was too far, "That means you'll be okay with overtime, right?" That's how I knew I was right all along, and that he probably never had had any talk with the client from the start. I just replied, "We'll see." Now that I've tasted how nice it is to leave on time, I can't guarantee anything. That was just to worry him because I knew I was busy enough to stay and I had nothing to do at home anyway. Last one is titled, "If You Want Me to Go to I Will." This happened nearly 11 years ago. I was a young kid working my first job at a grocery store as stock boy. This grocery store was part of one of the biggest grocery chains in the Netherlands, but it was in a small place. Common policy for this chain was to periodically switch their store managers throughout the region to uphold a standard across the chain. The managers would also get pointers as to what to focus on when taking over a new store. After working my job for just over a year, the time came for a new store manager. The new guy was former manager of one of the stores in the very center of the biggest city of the province. This meant he often had to deal with unpleasant customers, beggars and junks near the store, as well as a steady stream of easily replaceable employees that were often lazy, incompetent, or were exchange students that didn't speak Dutch. All in all, he prided himself on being capable of running his old store and seemed unhappy having to leave the old place where he felt himself king and ruler. The first thing he said to all employees at the new store was that he would solve the high work absence that was noted to him by his predecessor and regional management, and that he would gladly fire the mostly 15 to 18-year-old employees that didn't show up enough for whatever reason, school included. Granted that some of my co-workers were ill quite often, especially during the music festival season. Given that I was sick often and was reprimanded a few times before for being too slow at my job due to my meticulous following of the rules, which I was praised for at the same time, I knew there was gonna be issues. Skip forward 3 months and everyone hated the new manager. He looked down on everyone, had some obvious misogynistic vibes about him, and had threatened firing me multiple times for being sick over 4 separate times since he started. I had a long shift that day and after 3 hours was allowed my 30 minutes break. I was hoping to phone my mum to pick me up since I felt ill. I had already felt a fever coming on for nearly an hour, was near crying from my eyes, feeling hot and having a major headache. Having informed my supervisor that I might be having a bad reaction to my hepatitis A/B vaccine form the day before I was planning on a vacation to Cuba in a few months, he asked me to try to finish the first 3 hours of my shift so the evening shift workers could take over for me when I was allowed my leave. But since the manager was in today, he didn't have the final say. During the start of the evening shift, I got multiple concerned questions from my co-workers, as by now I was very pale and had bloodshot eyes. As per usual, the shift's workload was discussed, this time however with the store manager present. As my break was technically during the first 25 minutes of the evening shift, I was allowed to remain in the break room to have dinner after everyone left to the storefront, but for some reason the manager stayed as well. Manager, I heard from supervisor you were feeling ill again. You will finish your shift today or I will personally fire you right now. Me, sir, I feel seriously ill and might have a bad reaction to my vaccine. I feel like I might have a fever and don't feel capable of working another 5 to 3 hours. Manager, take some aspirin, have your break and then get back to work. Me, sir, I already had the maximum dosage 1 hour ago and can't take any more for at least 4 more hours. I want to go home and you can't fire me just for being sick. Manager, take your break, eat your food, drink some water and I best be seeing you up front in 20 minutes. He then left the break room. Not knowing what to do, I lay my head on the cold break room table. I start full on crying hot painful tears. 25 minutes pass by and not knowing how to handle myself, I decide to fake having fainted as the manager walks back into the break room. Manager, what drama, what an act. That's it, you are done here. I do not react. After 2 minutes of boasting he's seen this all before, the manager wakes me, still insisting that I'm faking being ill. Me, sir, I just blacked out and I feel very ill. I would like to call home to be picked up. Manager, fine if you insist, but I'm calling the and your parent is going to take you there as soon as they're here to pick you up. A smug grin on his face, obviously trying to pressure me into confessing I'm faking it. Me, whatever you want sir, as long as I can go home without getting fired for being ill. Later that evening I was diagnosed with severe side effects from the vaccine combined with the then rampant and more severe than normal Mexican flu, resulting in a 39.5 degrees Celsius fever. I stayed home sick for 1 week and did not go to work for 5 weeks. Got all shifts I was planned for during that time paid even though sick leave was normally unpaid, and I got a formal apology from the manager upon my return. Although he kept being a pain for all my coworkers, he never dared speak a word to me again unless it was praise for my excellent customer service and perfect-looking aisles. I heard years later that within his first year the manager was fired by regional management for his conduct in trying to lessen work absence and his negativity towards the mostly female register staff. Thanks for listening.